Hi everyone. In this video I want to explain how we derive the supply curve for loanable funds. So that's what's written across the top here, though it might be a little bit hard to read. And when you're deriving the supply curve of loanable funds, you have to remember that the real interest rate R is the reward for savings. So down here I'm drawing our little supply and demand curve. On the horizontal axis we have quantity, which is the quantity of loanable funds supplied by the financial sector. Over here on the vertical axis we have the price, where R here is the real interest rate, and I'm letting you know this is the first real interest rate. And so there's some initial combination that I'll call point A, that's initial combination of the real interest rate and the quantity of loanable funds supplied. Now, to be able to answer this question, we've got to remember, from the perspective of the lenders, the real interest rate is the reward for savings. We also have to remember that income and it can be used for two purposes: consumption plus savings. So that's it. And here I'm ignoring taxes and transfer payments and that type of thing, because that just sort of clouds the issue without really adding much to it. So you can pretend this is a case where there is no government. But if I wanted to add the government back in, I just have to take into account taxes and transfer payments. Now the key thing here is we're going to assume everything else you could possibly imagine that influences how much households want to save is constant, except the real interest rate. Which means we're going to hold output constant, and that little bar I just put above output means constant. Sometimes, if you've seen this model in another course, you may have heard someone say, we're going to assume output equals potential. And you can say that if you want here, but here I'll be a little bit more general, and I'll just say output, real GDP, income, it's held constant. And then I want to ask this question. Suppose the real interest rate rises. And I don't care why it rises right now, but it rises all the way up to R2. I don't yet have an explanation for why it rose to R2. Let's just say in a what if. This is a thought experiment. The question is, how will households respond? Well, if the real interest rate is the reward for savings, then the higher the real interest rate, the higher real interest rate is sending a signal to households saying, hey, savings is being rewarded, you need to go ahead and do more of it. Okay? Well, if that's the case, and we know income is equal to consumption plus savings, and as the real interest rate goes up, national savings goes up, or I should say personal savings goes up, then consumption expenditures have got to fall, right? Because if real GDP is held constant and national savings goes up, then consumption's got to fall. We'll come back to that later. But the important point here is national savings go up. Households are going to rationally choose to go ahead and save more each month. So it's sort of like now I have a Bank of America savings account, which probably has a savings rate of like 0.05%. And I'm saving X amount of dollars every month. Let's say I'm saving $500 a month. Well, if the real interest rate were to suddenly rise to, say, 10%, I can pretty much guarantee you I'm going to start saving more than that. And that's true not just of me, but everybody else out there in the economy. And as a result, the quantity, or the amount that households like me save increases. And if you think back to our discussion of the financial markets get the funds to loan out from households. So households are the ultimate supplier of loanable funds. So as their real interest rate rises, I put more in my Bank of America savings account, and then Bank of America can decide what to do with those, namely who to lend them out to. But the important point here is, as the real interest rate goes up, the reward for savings increases. So households, not just mine, but households all over the country will increase the amount they save, so the supply of loanable funds will increase. What does it increase to? I don't know. Let's just say it increases to Q2, which means our new real interest rate quantity supplied of loanable funds combinations at point B. For us, 2 points determine a line, so let's just go ahead, collect the dots, and this is the supply of loanable funds. Okay, and that's how you derive the supply curve of loanable funds. So it's derived with a relatively similar thought experiment to the one that we used to derive the demand curve for loanable funds. And in the next video, I'll just go ahead and show you how to, what the thought experiment is to cause the supply curve of loanable funds to shift.